What's going on, guys? MakerMods here, back at it again with another new video. Today we're taking a look at the newest revision of the Gazzew Boba U4Ts, the Nixdorks. They came out earlier this year, and Gazzew teased them on his own Twitter where he said that the U4T Nixdorks were a limited production Boba U4T. I picked mine up at Pantheon Keys. They are currently out of stock, but I wanted to take a look at the Nixdorks, do a quick comparison to the normal Boba U4Ts to answer one question. Are the Boba U4Ts still a top tier hyper tactile switch in 2022? I'm going to be doing my comparison and my review on the Nixdorks only because these are supposed to be the best, depending on what metric you use, version of the U4Ts. So I think this is a fair comparison, and I'm going to be looking at the sound profile, some of the things I like and don't like about the Switch, and possibly some alternatives to consider. Let's get started. The U4Ts first came out about a year ago, and they were quickly called the new king of tactile switches. You can see the various reviews saying that the U4Ts are better than Holy Pandas, they're the best tactile ever, they're awesome, and they are pretty much known and agreed upon as the best tactile switch of 2020. However, where does the U4T compare to all the switches that have come out in the last year or so? Can it still be called the king of tactile switches, or has it been replaced by cheaper or better offerings? Doing a quick Google search, you can buy U4Ts at Ash Keys, Ringer Keys, which is where I personally get mine, and even Swag Keys out of Korea. The U4T is described as a tactile or very tactile switch. It's a 5-pin PCB mount, and the one thing that I don't like is that we don't know the plastic composition. It's a custom new composition. As you probably saw from my Infinity Key Cow review, I really don't like the fact that we don't know what plastic it is. But I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what the plastic is as long as you like the sound, because the plastic is going to have the greatest effect on the sound profile of the Switch. That being said, we do know that it comes with a palm stem. The normal U4Ts come in two different spring weights, 62 or 68 grams, and one thing that I like about these springs are they are Korean springs, so they don't have as much ping as some of the other lower quality springs out there. The manufacturer of the Boba U4Ts, as most other Gazzew switches, or even before he was Gazzew, HB Heroin Bob on Reddit, guy switches, he's been making really tactile switches for quite some time. So Gazzew knows what's up, he knows how to make good switches, and he's been working with Outemu for quite a while. That being said, the Nixdorks that I have in my hand come with a 65 gram spring. You can see it describes the bump profile or the tactile profile as a D bump. There's no pre-travel, it goes straight into the bump, and there is some post-travel. I'd say there's probably about 1 millimeter to almost 2 millimeters of post-travel. So I'd say that's a little inaccurate, but it is a rounded bump, which is supposed to look kind of like a D, hence the D bump profile. It's got a long spring and it is lightly lubed on the spring base and lead. The Nixdork is supposed to have a new top housing mold, which is supposed to reduce resting state wobble. So here's a quick resting state wobble comparison between the Nixdork and the normal U4T, and to be completely honest, I don't see much, if any, difference. If anything, and this is a little embarrassing, I feel like the Nixdork is more wobbly than the normal U4T. So I'd say you're not missing anything by going for a normal U4T. Like left-right or east-west wobble might be a little better, but there's like a weird Z-state wobble. In terms of the sound profile, that is one thing that I noticed was slightly different between the normal U4T and the Nixdork as well. Here is the sound of a Nixdork with a GMK keycap on top. And here's the sound of a U4T with the same keycap. To be honest, once again, they sound pretty similar. Here's a comparison with some other switches. First, the Anubis switch. Coffee chip ice cream tactile made by Tecsee. The Neapolitan switch, also made by Tecsee. the Salmon switch made by Kinetic Labs. And last, here is an old Outemu Ice switch. So looking at all these different switches, most of these switches that we just saw are some variation of a long pole stem with a pretty large tactile bump. And I have to say, in terms of pure feeling, I personally really enjoy the Anubis switch, and I didn't make a secret of that when I did my Anubis switch review and I compared them to various switches. I personally enjoy the coffee chip ice cream tactile, and I had some people asking in YouTube comments on previous videos about this switch, and so I'm just gonna do a quick revisit. It's really smooth. I really do enjoy this switch. It sounds a little brittle, but I like the feeling of it. The Anubis is gonna be more poppy, and the Boba has, I would say, a sharper tactile wall. It's not as round in its tactility. Yeah, the U4T has, it's less of a round tactile bump. The U4T and the Salmons feel similar, and they even sound similar, so I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I know the Salmons are also some mystery blend of plastic. A lot of the variance in sound, it comes to the difference in spring weight, but to me, I think the Anubis is still a clear winner because I personally like the bottom out sound of the Moyu Black stem. Next, let's go to the typing tests. So let's talk about the value really quick. U4Ts cost 65 cents a switch. When you compare that to some of the other switches that we've taken a brief look at, the Anubis switches are also 65 cents a switch. And to me personally, I prefer the Anubis switches over the U4Ts. The Salmon switch from Kinetic Labs, although I think is slightly less refined and not as nice as the U4Ts, 48 cents a switch. And so when you compare the Salmons to the U4Ts, I honestly think I personally prefer the snappiness and the feeling of the Salmons to the U4Ts themselves. So on the price front, Salmons are a better buy than the U4Ts. And for the equivalent price, I personally think the Anubis switches are a better switch. Now, once again, this all comes down to preference. But to me, in 2022, I personally think there are better switches to buy. Your mileage may vary, and take everything I say with a grain of salt because I'm just a guy. I've tried a lot of tactiles, and I think my U4Ts are gonna go for sale, Nixdorks or no Nixdorks. So that's gonna be it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. If you did, feel free to leave a like if you liked the video and subscribe for more content. We just hit 1,500 subs and I'm just mind blown by the support that you guys have been giving me. I really appreciate all the comments that you guys have with just suggestions and comments. It really helps me in my journey creating content for you all. And so please, if you have any feedback for me, don't hesitate to drop it in the comments below. I try to reply to comments on a weekly basis, so I'm sorry for all of the guys who have gotten replies like a month later. It's been a crazy time, crazy year, but I'm excited for what 2022 has in store, and I hope you'll be with me for the ride. I'm MakerMods, and I will catch you in the next video.